Hello and welcome to a video on the skills that I've used and the skills I've developed from my foundation portfolio to my advanced portfolio using Premiere. Premiere is a video editing software in which I use to create my trailer. So to start with, we will begin as you would a new project. This would be using the import function. As you can see, I've already got clips in here. These are clips that I've used in my trailer, but if you were to start something completely from scratch, you would go File, Import, and you're brought to, you would go to the location where your clips would be. Say mine are in desktop, I would then scroll to find wherever I wanted something. For example, say I want this in there, highlight that, or command and select a bunch of different things, and then you would import those as I just accidentally did. After that, we go to how to cut something. This is very simply done by highlighting the razor tool here, or pressing Command C, and cutting it where you want. This could be because of maybe a bit of dialogue is in there that you didn't want. For example, the actor saying, sorry, not the actor, the director saying cut, or the shot being too long and they're going on for too long and it getting a little bit boring. That's what you use the cut tool for. For actually importing media from your bin, which is where it's go when you import it from a location into your timeline, you would double click that, and an easy and efficient way of putting a clip in there that has too much length to it and you don't need all of it is the in and out markers, which are here. So say example I wanted it to start there, press the in marker, and then I would go to where I wanted it to stop, press the out marker, drag it, and put it in there wherever I wanted. That's an efficient way of doing that. It means that you don't have to waste time cutting too much off and then having large gaps on either side. It works well for matching things up, because if you have too large a gap on either side, it can affect your how well your sound and audio sync up together, and that can be very difficult to rectify. The next tool I'm going to go over is the track select forward and track select back, which essentially does the opposite. This is an easy way of keeping everything together when moving it. So say for example I needed to move two things, or say more than two things, a lot of things, all of this, say I needed to move all of this down, but I wanted it to keep in the same position as it is now, but just further along the timeline. I would use a track select forward, as you can see here, and then I would move all of it down. So that's the easy way of doing that, keeping everything together and in sync. The next thing I'm going to go over is keyframes, and these are really useful for achieving effects like fading in, fading out, sound fade out, and the way you achieve this is by, say I wanted something to happen on this clip here, double click that, then you would go to effects controls and you're brought up to a menu here. Say I wanted this clip, if we go over it, say I wanted this clip to fade out, I would go to opacity. You see it's on 100% now, completely visible. I would add the keyframe here, go along to where I wanted it to fade out, say at the end of the clip. I would then add another keyframe and reduce the opacity down to 0. And from those 2 points, the image would fade out, and it would fade out as fast as the 2 points are far away from each other. So if you have 2 points that are very close together, the action that you have told the image to do in between the 2 key points will happen very quickly. If they're very far away, it will be more of a gradual process. The next thing I'm going to go over is the sound control, and this works in kind of the same way, but there are many things you can do with sound. Obviously you can do the volume, increase, decrease, it's measured in decibels, but also if something's too quiet you can layer sound. As you can see, these two things are the same, and this is probably because you can't hear it very well. If you layer sound, it's essentially like doubling the sound. The more layers you have, the louder it should be. this worked quite well when you are just using the microphone on a camera, because often they aren't of really high quality, so it works very well to layer sound so that it's clearer and more audible. That's how we did that. We also used the motion tool. Now we had a bit of a hiccup with our clips, as you can see here. If I go to the same clip, there I should be. There I am. As you can see, they are of two different sizes, one in the source bin and one in the final trailer. And as you can see more of my surroundings. Sorry, that's me, by the way. You can see more of my surroundings in the background of the source bin than you can in the actual trailer. Now, this is because the source bin is using the resolution that it was imported in, and that's because the camera we were using was on a different resolution. I believe it was VGA resolution, which is something like 620 by 840, I think. Obviously, we don't want to be doing that. We want to be recording in 1920 by 1080p HD. So in order to do that, we had to use the motion tool, and this is used by going back into Effects Controls, Motion. Now you have Position and Scale. Essentially, this means left and right. This means up and down, and scale means how far zoomed in it is, how far zoomed out it is. Now, when we imported the media into this, when you zoomed in, it lost a lot of quality, and it didn't look, as professional as we wanted it to. But however, this was luckily rectified when rendering it, and rendering is a process of basically cutting out all the flaws in your project, and you would do this by highlighting everything and pressing enter. This would then render everything. Now we don't need to do that now because it's already rendered, but what I will move on to now will be the another thing on sound. Now we had another disappointment with our sound. It wasn't of quite the right quality as we wanted. For example, when you're out here and the wind's blowing, it's very difficult to actually hear what the actors are saying because of how windy it is. It often overpowers the voices. So what we ended up doing was post-production. After everything was filmed, we ended up going into a music recording studio, opening up Logic Pro, taking a microphone, a convex boom stand so that noise wasn't interrupted from the outside. We got it all professionally done. We recorded the sound, and then we then matched it to the audio, which was a very long and tedious process. But it was the right way to go about it. Otherwise, obviously, you can't hear what's going on. And this the scenes that did require audio remapping were pivotal to explaining our plot. Because of this, it sounded almost too perfect to be in the trailer. For example, if you're sitting outside and talking, you're not going to be, you're not going to hear the voices completely perfectly. There has to be ambient sound. So this is what we included in the trailer. So you can see here there is dialogue on this bar, which is the pre-recorded stuff, I believe, and this is the ambient sound. The ambient sound was simply found by going to, I believe it was soundbible.com, and downloading a clip from there, and then just importing that into the document, Premiere file, and then just leaving it as that, so it ran over the specific clips we wanted, and we then cut it when we're needing it. Another thing on sound is we used sound gain. This is sound gain is where it sort of gradually comes in instead of being completely there. This works well when starting a trailer because obviously the audience has to sort of be eased into the narrative and eased into the plot and everything like that. It can't just go, from 0 to 100 miles an hour and expect the audience to keep up with it. Media text needs to be easy to decode and easy to understand, so it works well to sort of have everything go gradually up instead of, straight to 90 degrees. We also used an effect called the de-hummer. I believe it's in audio effects somewhere. It's quite far away. There we go. De-hummer here. Then you apply that to anything that has a sort of mechanical or electrical hum in it. Anything that doesn't sound like it would be there naturally when watching a film. You apply that, it scans it, and then it removes everything that sounds like it would be there. We also used some effects in terms of our visuals. If I can find it for you. Here, we used a Lumetri cold mix. I will try and find this for you, although it might take too long. It'll be video effects here, and I think it's in a colour correction. Anyway, you get the idea. It's one of these. And this basically sort of, if it's too bright or if it's too dark or if the colours don't look quite right, maybe it looks too saturated, you apply this and it sort of tries to correct that for you. It changes the colour scheme, everything like that. But also if it maybe looks a bit too dark, it will brighten it up to make it look a bit warmer, a bit lighter. But also another way we did changing darkness and brightness is simply by adjusting the brightness of the clip post-production. Obviously you can't go back and change it on the camera, but that's how those are some of the skills that I used whilst creating my Premiere project. Thank you very much.